Bam. How are you? How are you? This is a special stream for us. We don't normally get to do a stream in the middle of the evening or the afternoon, but today I was busy. And this is the first time I've been able to get to something that I've been able to enjoy. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is John Shank, and I'm a real estate broker in St. Louis, Missouri. And started the live stream about, I don't know. Well, I started on YouTube about a year ago, I would say. And we talk about general real estate news. I have a podcast, Deerwood Realty and Friends, that I've been neglecting for the past, 3 weeks because I've just been loaded up with stuff. It's the busy season in the residential real estate world, and so I'm busy showing houses. And that's been basically the deal. But the live stream is kind of an extension of the podcast. What I like to do is just talk about current real estate events, my opinions on things like pop culture and what I would call pop news, things that are just fascinating that get reported. And then, for you, it's just come in and chat and let's have a good time. Had a fascinating morning. I just wanted to go over it with you because I think that it was interesting. So how many of you out there have ever read stuff about how psychologically a cult forms? Like there's this initiation, there's this, it's bizarre stuff. But once you read that stuff, it's like you never, ever get rid of it. And so it's always in the back of your mind. And so today I went to my daughter's college where she's chosen to go. And it was like a parent orientation. It was a day to start. It wasn't the official orientation. That's not until August. But what was so fascinating to me is there was this, I don't even think the people that were running the show realized it, but they were just basically sending everyone into a cult at one moment or another over time. The thing that got to me is when everyone got up to speak that was part of the institution, one of the first things they would do is they would pledge their allegiance to the institution. So it would go something like this: I've been at this school for X years and you will have to carry me out. Or I have been in a different educational institution and it was nothing like this one. It's so great to be here. And then what you would get is this confession. So something along the lines of, I used to think this way, but now I think only about what the institution has for me. And in a way, I thought at first it was a way of humanizing their experience and being relatable to the people. But at the end of the day, it got real weird. And so has my daughter joined a cult? I don't know. I don't know. It's a college cult. How many of you have joined a college cult and don't know it? And that, that's kind of the problem that I have with the world is it's not a question of being involved in one cult or another. It's involved in how many cults are we involved in? I mean, have you ever seen, well, for myself, it was a sports team. I loved watching hockey. I loved watching NFL football, loved watching baseball. But all of those things turned into be like a cult for me. I mean, it was like all of us are here to watch these people play. And, people would talk about how their grandmother was buried in a Cardinals jersey or something along the lines of that. And then the players are treated like, superstars, and they're great athletes. Don't get me wrong. But it's a level of God worship where people actively, we have all these announcers and everyone talk about how great these players' accomplishments are. It's bizarre. It's just bizarre. So I don't want you to think that I'm ripping on cults. I mean, obviously some of them have gone a little south, but it was fascinating to see. And let's be honest. I mean, if your kid's going to college and they're signing on for, tuition upwards of $50,000 a year for 4 years. That's a significant commitment. It's hard to get that off the store shelf. So, for example, it's hard to get that if there were all these universities and they were like cereal boxes on the shelf. You'd pick the most colorful one, I suppose, if you didn't know anything else about the flavors. And so, in the same way, the way this is set up, it's actually totally different. It's more like selling like a luxury vehicle or even selling real estate. A house is $500,000. A buyer literally walks in 15 seconds later. They know whether or not they're going to buy the house or put in an offer. Similarly, like these schools, you go visit the school, you have somebody assigned to speak with the minute that you start with the institution, the point of first contact, and then you just go and you try to sell a child and their family the ability to take on a significant amount of debt early in the process. So I think that's kind of interesting. Early in the process of life would be my statement. So, I mean, I don't know. I think that's kind of interesting. I don't know if you can hear, but that's the vacuum sweeper upstairs. I've now been, I don't know what to do. I've never had this happen. That's what I love about this is like, you never know what's going to happen. Now, did I tell my kids that I was going to do a live stream right now? No, I'm not supposed to do a live stream now. I normally do a live stream at 9:00 in the morning. And so now I've got this vacuum sweeper going on over my head. So that was great. Anyway, can't seem to win. So anyway, what I was in my thoughts is, so when you're looking at a house, do we go through any sort of like, do we go over any sort of cult behavior in getting people to buy these homes? Well, let's look at it. In an abstract way. So, like, think about it. When you go to buy a house, one of the first things that you have to do is you have to see if you can be approved for a mortgage for most people, or you're going to have to figure out how you can finance things, right? And so you're going to talk to a lender, and you're going to give them your documents. You're going to kind of tell them all about your life related to your finances, and then they're going to make a decision about how much money you can possibly take out. Now, the other thing is you're going to try and find a real estate agent, right? So maybe it's a friend, maybe it's someone you saw on TV, or somebody you saw, got an email or something. I don't know. You've got this agent, and so this agent's there to guide you. Very similar to like the administration in a university, where that's your central point of contact. And so, as you go through the process, and say you're looking at $500,000 homes, and you want to find a certain location, and you want to find somewhere where you fit in. And I know that this is a concept that's how do I put it? It's fraught with difficulty in 2022. Okay. You want to go where you and your family fit in. Okay. Now, myself, I don't feel like I fit in very many places. Okay. There's certain parts of town where I feel like if I walked and tried to show a house, I'd be arrested. Okay. Or I'd be physically harmed. Like I don't feel like I fit in these places. And similarly, when you go look for colleges, you're trying to find a place where you fit in. And it's hard because you're 18 and people talk about how you're going to grow. You're going to grow as a person. And so you're going to this institution. Maybe you think you're going to hang out with your friends and party like a rock star. Maybe that's your motivation for going to this school. Maybe it's to actually learn something. I don't know. But it's very similar to the process of buying a home. Are people successful always when they choose a home to buy? Well, I know that's not true. I had a house where I listed it for my sellers. They went and bought a newer home. The person that had bought the house had it for maybe a year, did nothing to it, sold it, and now it's a rental. So clearly that person that bought it is similar to the student who starts college and for whatever reason doesn't complete their degree program. So, you know, it's very smooth presentation. Okay. I have always been uncomfortable with, like, when I do a listing presentation, I don't have a whole bunch of notes written out in advance. I don't have a script. I know a lot of agents that are successful have these wonderful scripts, and they have them memorized to the point where they know where there's lines for people to laugh, where there's lines for you to be honest and try to talk about something in your life, something in the past, swear your allegiance to this or that. I don't know. I don't know if it works. Okay. I don't know if it works. But there is certainly a correlation between the branding as well. Let's just go over that for a second. If you go to a community college in St. Louis, there's nothing wrong with the community college. I went to a community college for a while. I've taken some classes there. There's nothing wrong with the community college. Certainly doesn't get the same. It doesn't get the same responses like a Harvard. And I don't know that Harvard deserves it. We have Washington University in St. Louis. Certainly they would make it, there would be a distinguishment. And the same thing with brokerages, oddly enough. I mean, I know the top brokerages in St. Louis as far as for the well off. We know who they are. And I don't know that there's such a thing as like a regular or poor person brokerage. I don't know that we have anything like that. But it's certainly a way to segment who's listing your property. Now, if I put a sign in a certain part of town, people are like, I don't know who that is. Does that mean those people aren't going to buy the house? No, those aren't the people that we're marketing to anyway. Those are just neighbor gawkers. We don't really care what they think, to be honest. So anyway, I thought it was interesting. I'm running into a situation myself where I've been in the business for a long time, and I know the value of property pretty much from here to St. Charles and Jefferson County. I mean, like I knew what things could bring. For instance, I can remember when houses brought a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and a half would bring $150,000 every day of the week. Okay. These types of properties in this market are coming to market in the 180s and selling for over 200. And it's very hard for me to get used to this pricing. That's just, to me, just outrageous. It's just outrageous. And so, will that happen in the school industry, in the university industry? I don't know. I had strict rules that my child was not going to be allowed to graduate with debt, where they just couldn't go to school. So, and we're not taking on any debt. So whatever was going to work out, whatever school you were going to go to was going to be dependent on that factor. Luckily, she found a place that I think is going to be very, very positive for her. But anyway, I just thought that was really interesting. And myself, I'm sitting there thinking, should I start scripting things? Should I start making things in the same way that this university does in its ability to get people to pay, $250,000 over 4 years? It's weird. Like in my business, I know how people try to market. I know how real estate agents and real estate investors and real estate brokers, how they all try to market themselves. And certainly for years, there would be these clubs like Meetup. There would be meetups, and there would be, now your Facebook groups, and all these things were designed, at least for real estate agents, like to either recruit, like, so you have a new buyer seminar, you have a investor meetup where someone's trying to pawn their junk to you because you don't know any better because you're new to the industry. We have agent masterminds where like a bunch of agents will talk about how great their business is and how great they are. And then as an impressionable agent, you think that you want to perhaps be with that office and not your own. It's very fascinating, very fascinating. And I just it's funny to me because I can remember going to college, okay, and I can remember the things that they would say, the reasons why we would want to go to these places, and then what ended up happening in the end was I didn't work out. I mean, I graduated, but what everyone talked about as being positive and good didn't turn out that way for me. So anyway, I did want to share that with you. I I think that it's fascinating. So as we've been talking this week, I've wanted to change things up. Um, kind of, I just kind of want to change things up. I want to see how we can do this. Maybe a little more, pop news. Maybe a little bit more real estate. Maybe not so much listings. Even though I love listings, and I really should provide commentary on listings more often as we're talking about this, because I can see right now that it's something that's going to be lacking from the show. So we'll try to figure out a way to, maybe we'll just talk about one listing in the location instead of three. But I know that if we talk about it too much, people don't like it. But I can tell you online, like just myself, I can show you good listings every day of the week. Why? Well, I've looked at thousands and thousands and thousands of listings over my lifetime. So it's not hard. It's not hard for me to figure out. Anyway, I think what I'm going to try and do is just get into things. So we've got some news today. I thought it was fascinating. I don't know. I don't want anybody to be hurt or anything like that. I did want to check something real quick because I know I'm going to get. Okay. Oh boy, that's not a good answer. Anyway, well, it's good enough. Where am I at now? Boy, okay, goodness. Sorry. I just went. Never check your email during a live stream. It just doesn't go well. But I would check if you were chatting with me. I would love to chat with you. I don't exactly understand why it is that no one comes to chat with me. I don't bite. I'm not a mean person. I just don't get it. I chat. I have my live stream and I hype my live stream, and yet no one shows up. It's like, what did I do wrong? I think it's pretty fascinating. I mean, if I did it later at night, would you be more receptive to it? I don't think that's necessarily true. I see people during the day on live streams all the time. So I don't know. Let's get going here. Let's get over to these articles that I thought were interesting. So this is the first one that I saw, and we'll go through it. I got to get back to here. Okay. What about here? Do you like this or do you like this better? I like today. I think I'm going to go with this. No, that's terrible. Today I think I'm going to go with this. I would rather go with that. Let's go with this. If you get upset with it, put it in the chat. Let me know, and I will do something about it, I suppose. So here we go. It says rescue underway in Pennsylvania after 2 people fall in tank full of chocolate. Now, just off the top of this, maybe somebody's injured, maybe somebody's dying. I'm not proud of that. All right. I don't want you to think I'm making light of it, but I'll tell you, one of my dreams has always been like to swim in a vat of chocolate. That'd be awesome. Like, as long as it wasn't burning me to death. But you can see that this is a bad situation. It says a rescue operation is underway at the Mars M&M factory in Pennsylvania after 2 people fell into a tank full of chocolate. Fire crews have eliminated pulling them straight out of the tank. So Brad Wolf, communications supervisor for Lancaster County 911 dispatch, told CNN, they have to cut a hole in the side of the tank to get them out. Wolf said it's unclear how the people fell into the chocolate tank. No injuries have been reported at this time. So it says a Mars Wrigley spokesperson to CNN, we are actively managing the situation. Our primary focus is supporting the emergency teams on site. I mean, it's not a big article, but we've got people trapped in a chocolate tank that they can't just be pulled out of. I mean, I don't understand. I mean, there's got to be more to this. That's all I have. That's all I have to go with. So that's what we're doing. But yes, there are 2 people that are stuck in a vat of chocolate in Pennsylvania. And I'm not making that up. Let's move on. thought this was an interesting article. It's probably not appropriate for a real estate site, but you know what? I mean, nobody's watching the real estate portion of it anyway, I guess. So let's look at this headline. Geico ordered to pay Missouri woman $5.2 million after she contracted STD in a car. Well, so a couple things. I live in Missouri. Okay. And I am aware, I live in St. Louis County. I am aware of what others think about Missouri. Okay. I'm aware. And somehow over time that's translated to the people of Missouri. And somehow like there's a lot of hatred amongst our own people. Like, oh, we live in Missouri. It's the most terrible place ever. I don't know if that's true. I lived in Detroit for 8 years. It wasn't great. I'm not trying to say that Detroit's a bad place as much as I'm just saying like it's not it was as bad as Missouri at least. So anyway, do I have city pride? Sure. I mean, I'm okay with that. If you live here and you don't like it that much, you should probably go someplace else just for your own health. That's what I would say. So, anyway, let's get to this. So it says, so I thought it was interesting. I mean, I don't know. It says, CNN, a Missouri woman was awarded $5.2 million in a settlement from an insurance company, Geico, after contracting a sexually transmitted disease from her partner in his vehicle, which was insured by the company, court documents show. The Missouri Court of Appeals upheld that award this week. The woman, a Jackson County resident. Now, I don't know where Jackson County is, but because we're doing new things, okay, we're going to figure this out. I don't know if we're going to get, oh my gosh. I can't place. Okay, so it's like over there by Kansas City, basically. So that's where it is. So that's on the west side of the state. We basically have, St. Louis on the east side of the state, and then we have Kansas City on the west side of the state. Politics, I think, are completely different. People, I think, are different. But that's just me. I'm biased. I grew up in St. Louis. So let's continue with this. It says the woman, a Jackson County resident, said she contracted human papillomavirus from her partner, according to court documents. On Tuesday, the Missouri Court of Appeals filed an opinion confirming the initial Jackson County Circuit Court arbitration award finding against Geico. It says in February 2021, the woman, anonymously identified in documents as MO, submitted a petition to Geico directly. She alleged that her sexual partner negligently caused or contributed to cause to be infected with HPV by not taking proper precautions and neglecting to inform and or to disclose his diagnosis, according to court documents, and that his insurance policy provided coverage for her injuries and losses. She made a final settlement offer of $1 million to resolve her claims, the documents say. In April 2021, Geico denied coverage and refused her settlement offer, according to the Missouri Court of Appeals filing. The case was then sent to an arbiter. So there must have been, now I'm not a law major, I'm not a lawyer, but there must have been some sort of clause that says that you go to an arbitration based on X, Y, and Z. And so it says the arbitrator determined that there was sexual activity in the insured's vehicle that directly caused or indirectly contributed to cause the woman to be infected with HPV, despite her former partner's knowledge of his positive HPV diagnosis, according to the filing. The arbiter subsequently submitted that $5.2 million would fairly compensate the woman for damages and injuries. Geico then appealed the Jackson County Circuit Court's confirmation of the arbitration award, asserting that the court didn't give Geico a meaningful opportunity to defend its interests. It says a 3-judge panel responsible for reviewing the appeal confirmed the circuit court settlement decision of $5.2 million despite Geico's appeal efforts. At the time of Geico's intervention, liability and damages had been determined by an arbitrator and confirmed by the trial court. Geico had no right to relitigate these issues, the opinion stated. The panel also wrote that Geico could have defended his interest by entering a defense of the insured individual. Geico did not take advantage of this opportunity, instead denied coverage and refused to defend insured. The opinion said CNN reached out to the attorneys for both the women and Geico did not immediately hear back. But what they're saying here in this sentence, in the opinion, it says Geico could have defended the individual, and they chose not to. And so that's on them. Very interesting situation, I think. I mean, it's just, I wouldn't think to sue under those circumstances or to file a claim. But because it doesn't occur to me doesn't mean it's not legit. Perhaps they're going to have to update their policies. I mean, that's a wild situation, I think. What do you think? I'm going to go back to this one because I can. So we got that. We got a situation there. We got a bug. I have like this little bug that flies around. I swear, and it's just, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Every day. Anyway, so that's not good. I just thought it was an interesting article. I'm a little bit blown away by it. Let's go to something else. Have you ever been at Deerwood Realty's website? Well, you should go there. It's mine. I built it. It's kind of fun, but what we're looking for today is interest rates. Now, interest rates, I've felt like we need to be at about 5.5%. If you look at this situation here, 30-year fixed, we're at 5.55%, a rise of 6 basis points from yesterday. I think 5.5% is high. I think 5.5% changes people's behavior. On my behalf, or in my business, I have seen buyers really get into a bad situation with kind of a whiplash setup here. Let me go back. I'm playing around with this today. I don't know why. So what I'm seeing a lot of is people that were pre-approved in the threes, okay? And let's say they could buy a $450,000 house and their payments were like $200,000, like $2,500 a month or less, okay? And it was or less. And so they're looking at these $450,000 houses, okay, listed for $450,000. And so what would end up happening is those houses would sell for $500,000 or $525,000 over asking, obviously, but then they would waive the appraisals and everything else, buying houses as is. So it's just a ridiculous number. And then what happened is the market changed. The market rose very quickly from 3% up to 5%, and now we're kind of gradually marching upwards of 5.5%. Last couple of days we've been really kind of right along there. And those people that were looking at those $450,000 houses selling for $525,000 are now looking at homes that are at $350,000. Okay, that's because that's what they can afford now, and they're not happy. They're not happy because what they could have afforded a $450,000 house just like 2 months ago. And so there's kind of a reset going on in the marketplace. Well, where does that hurt buyers? Well, it really, really, really hurts them in the low ranges. So let's assume that you could buy a $200,000 house during the good times. Okay. Now you're running into a situation where those people that can now afford a $200,000 house were those people that could afford possibly a $275,000, $280,000 house earlier this year. So now they've dropped down to the $200,000 range, the low twos, and then you're currently at the $200,000. And when you look around, not a lot of great houses for that $200,000 price point. Here in St. Louis, at least 2 bedrooms, one bath, and maybe 1,000 square feet with a basement. You're having a tough time in what I would say areas where people really want to live. You're going to have a tough time getting at the end of the day getting below 200,000. So that's rough. So these interest rates are really hurting a lot of people, because now we have all kinds of people at this $200,000 range, and there's just not that many houses in that space. So it's being compressed. You know, you're not going to feel sorry about buyers in this market or sellers in this market if you're comfortably living in your home, and have been for years. You really don't care. And I get that. I'm not asking you to be, have empathy for these folks, but I just want you to understand that, like, when we talk about people buying a house, a lot of times, like, for instance, let's say it's a first-time home buyer. They've maybe lived with their parents. Then they graduated college. They got a new job, and they want to buy a starter home. Well, that's real tough right now. Real tough. But they want to get out on their own, right? And so maybe 10 years ago, these people were renting apartments. But now those rates have risen as fast or even faster than home prices. And you're looking at stupid prices for rentals as far as, what people are charging their tenants now. So it's a real problem. To me, the housing market's really locked up, a real mess. And even when people say that we need more inventory, I agree that we need more inventory, but it has to be good inventory, if that makes any sense. Right now, you can throw crap out there and get an offer on anything. And I just don't know that that's the best way to fly. So anyway, that's what I'm seeing in the marketplace. And, you may have an agent that says that's not true. I don't know. I would like to be below 5 on the interest rates. I would like them to not fluctuate so much, or at least not as fast as they did. Because what's happening is your buyers are like, well, why am I going to pay more for less? It's a question that's difficult to answer for them. So let's continue down this path. I'll do that one. I kind of like that one. So that's at DearwoodRealtySTL.com. If you want to just take a look. Now, is that the exact quote that you'll get? No. You can call 10 different people and you'll get 10 different responses. So anyway, I wanted to go over something that I don't know if you know anything about it, but it was something that I had to educate myself about, when things started to sell for over appraisals, because I'd never been in a market where that happened. Honestly. So here we go. It says preparing clients for appraisal gaps. This is out of the National Association of Realtors, the Young Professional Networks. It says house prices are skyrocketing. Now, this was in April. It's June now. Did I get to the article in a timely manner? Probably not. But in my market, we still have appraisal gaps. Okay. Maybe you have you don't have the same situation in your place, and that's fine. But let's just go over it anyway. It says winning a bid can be tough, and you need the secret sauce, right? But have you put thought into how to address appraisal gaps for your clients? Appraisal gaps are on the rise. I'm seeing an increasing number of houses fall out of contract because of an appraisal gap. This is, of course, due to the meteoric rise in home prices. With another summer of house price mayhem expected, I anticipate the situation getting worse before it gets better. So what can we do about this as real estate professionals? In order to figure out what to do about the appraisal gaps, we first need to know what they are, why they happen, and where they happen. It's important to also know where root cause lies and how to prep buyers and sellers on how to deal with a gap. So Appraisal Gaps 101, it says the appraisal gap is the difference between the market value per the appraiser and the price of the home agreed upon by the signed purchase agreement. The value difference only becomes an appraisal gap when the offer is higher than the appraisal. Now, let's talk about that. I mean, you're here and I'm here. I'm gonna flip this off because I just took myself out of the thing. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so let's talk about this. Only happens when in an appraisal the price is like, say, $350, but you've agreed to buy the house for $375. The gap between $350 and $375 is the appraisal gap. So, couple things. Why are we seeing an appraisal gap? Well, I can't tell you exactly why we're seeing an appraisal gap, but I can say that it's happening. It's happening because the prices of the homes are selling for so much more than what they're being listed for, and the market, the appraisers haven't had a chance to catch up with new comps in all areas. So let's just go through an example. Let's say that in this neighborhood, and this is a perfect example, I think, in my opinion. This neighborhood that I was working in with a buyer. So for the last year, the houses in the neighborhood were sold in a tight range between $240,000 and $250,000. Okay, I think there were probably 8 sales between $240,000 and $250,000. So if you go there, okay, you're thinking, if I offer $255,000, I'm probably getting the house, right? I mean, that's reasonable. Well, then there was a house that sold in the neighborhood for $275,000. Okay. So what do you think that everybody started doing with their sales? Like when they started listing their property, they rose their asking price to, $270,000, $275,000, because there was now a comparable sale that was in that space. Well, what do you think happens in this market? Well, now that somebody's gotten, let's say that house for $275,000 goes under contract. Okay. And now it sells. Now, if the person bought it with cash, okay, it doesn't matter what the appraisal is. There's no finance contingency on cash. So that's the real price of the home, $275,000. So now agents and sellers, as they are, they're going to $300,000. And so that's what happens is you're getting higher than what the last sold house is. If you had 10 houses that sold at $300,000 and the market was weak, okay, and you put your house up for $295,000, you may get $300,000, okay, you may get that, but there's also other, there's been sold houses at that range. The appraiser doesn't have to think too hard. He says, well, this house is actually going below what is being sold, so that's great. So that's kind of where I wanted to be on that. Let's continue with this article. So it says appraisal gaps in real time. Oh, maybe, I'm sorry. Let's get this. I'm sorry. Appraisal gaps 101. Why is this an issue? It comes down to the banks. If the bank thinks that the house is worth less than the offer, they may not lend money on it. In this case, buyer financing can and usually will fall through. What's happening out in the marketplace? So it says, I pulled a couple of agents in different parts of the country to find out what this issue looks like in their market right now. So this guy says, when it comes to appreciating house prices, Tampa Bay is no exception, with some research showing a 29.7% jump in house prices over the past 12 months. Another 19% is predicted by Zillow this summer. Because of this, I'm absolutely seeing appraisal gap issues. Comps almost caught up by the end of summer 2021, but it's a concern when trying to close a deal for a client. And then a fellow in Columbus, Ohio says, houses appreciated 17% in Columbus in 2021. I certainly felt the heat. Homes were selling fast and are way over asking. The net result was homes were not appraising, and unless the buyer had cash to bring to the table, I saw more deals falling through. And then it says, my personal experience, being an authority on the real estate market in Denver, house prices went up more than 20% over the last 12 months. I don't see it slowing down anytime soon as the fundamentals remain the same. Low inventory, relatively low interest rates, and buyers getting more and more desperate. It's almost making for the perfect appreciation storm. What I'm seeing in St. Louis is just that we're seeing houses sell for way over appraisal. And sometimes it does catch up in a neighborhood. But the problem is then you just list the property for even more. It says, who's to blame for appraisal gaps? Is with many complicated issues, there's no group to blame here. I tend to agree with that. And let me just put it out there. Like, a normal real estate contract does not have an appraisal rider in it. Okay. It does not have any protection. A normal contract in St. Louis, let's say a St. Louis board contract, does not have in its 10 pages an appraisal rider, or something that says anything about something not appraising for a certain price. It has a contingency. It has a finance contingency in the offer, but you can choose to write an offer not contingent on financing. That would normally be a cash offer. But there is a rider. It's called the appraisal rider. And what that does is it says, look, if it doesn't appraise, the buyer gets their money back and they can walk. Okay. But it says that the buyer can do that. The buyer doesn't have to. If it doesn't appraise and the buyer chooses to bring the cash difference to the table, then they can still buy the house. That is the way it is also with an FHA contract. Okay. So if you do an FHA contract right now, you're not obligated. You basically on an FHA offer, you do have an appraisal rider in the offer itself. And it just simply says that if it does not appraise, you're not obligated to buy it. Now, the difference is when say it doesn't appraise, in that FHA contract, you can still buy the house. Again, you're still going to just be bringing cash to the table. So, it is what it is. It's like most of the best, I'd say most of the best contracts right now are coming on sales with cash. So if you're coming in with cash, that's considered a stronger hand, if you will, than a financed deal. So I don't know. Let's continue. It says, if you talk to my dad, he'll say it's at least the last two administrations and all the cheap money they've been printing. And I can't say he's completely wrong. I can't say he's wrong because I don't 100% understand economics as he does. However, I know that basically more money does create a chance of inflation, and inflation means prices go up. Maybe we can blame builders and the lack of building over the past several years. Build more houses, gosh darn it, but it's not quite that simple. Inflation, lack of workforce, and supply chain issues have all contributed to the problem. I have friends in new construction, and I know that they're definitely trying. Of course, there would be no gap if appraisers would just appraise for the contract price, right? Then there's the other side of the coin. If you submit an offer for $50,000 over on a $300,000 house, guess what? Yep, there will most likely be an appraisal gap. And we must look at ourselves too. If we tell a client to list a house for sale at an uncomfortably high price, then we know it might not appraise. So maybe we should blame ourselves. Ultimately, it's the real estate cycle. We shouldn't be trying to blame anyone. Instead, we should be trying to help our clients and ourselves through this period. At the end of the day, we see appraisal gaps every time we have accelerated increase in housing prices. The last 12 months, an average of 20% increase is one of these times. So despite who you might like to blame, the truth is the greater market is at play. This is absolutely right. This is what I would say really, really screws things up when parents tell their kids how to buy real estate when the market is so different than when their parents bought a property. When the market is balanced, the seller always has the advantage because they set the price, but the buyer can ask for concessions. The buyer can pretty much walk away at any point in time. And I honestly believe that some of this is like a little bit of a backlash because buyers have been a little bit annoying for quite some time now, nickel and diming on the inspections, and then just bailing on the property because they got cold feet or something like that. So sellers are in the strong position right now. They're sticking it to the buyers left and right. As far as who is it to blame? Well, I don't think that pointing the finger at anyone in this situation does anything because like this author says, I think it's part of the market. People are doing dumb things because the market says that's what you have to do. I don't know that it's a good thing. I don't know it's a bad thing. I just know what it is. It's like this. Like if I'm working with a buyer, let's say I'm working with a buyer today and their parents come with us on the showing. And let's say the house is asking price $200,000. The parents are going to say, "Hey, you should offer like 180, okay? And make sure that you have an inspection contingency. Make sure that you, make sure you have a finance contingency. So if the interest rates rise, you're covered." They're going to lock that thing up tight. Here I am in the market, seeing that there's been 30 showings, that calling the agent and knowing that they have 17 other offers on the property. And I'm telling my buyer, hey, I don't think you should come in below asking on this. I think that's just wasting all of our time. And so, that's the issue that I see is the market. The market is its own. It's not me telling. It's not. I'm not telling the parents that they are wrong. The parents were right when they were buying their house. Okay, it's just that the circumstances are totally different. If you haven't, when I talk to my wife, I say, this house sold for this much over asking. And she's like, why do people do that? Like, what's wrong with these people? And I don't really have a defense. My situation is, when I'm trying to help a buyer acquire a house, I can only really do what the market, I can only do what the market is giving us. To win a deal, I have to probably be at the best terms for the seller in this market. That's pretty much true all the time. It's just, it's so aggressive now that when I used to be bidding against like two people and the over asking was like $5,000, now it's like, 30 offers and many thousands of dollars over asking. But let's continue with the article. It says how to prep sellers for a potential appraisal gap. So how can we help people who are selling their homes and facing an appraisal gap to prepare them for it? How exactly do we do that? With education and information. It's important to let your client know what the current real estate market means for them, appraisals included. They've likely already heard a lot from friends, family, and acquaintances who have been involved in the market. They might even think they have all the information they need, but they thought about how it can affect the buyer getting financing. You can use this situation as a learning opportunity, which also gives you a chance to prove yourself as an authority in real estate. So a couple of things there. One, I'm not interested in trying to prove myself as an authority in real estate at this stage in my career. I have a deep level of humility that doesn't allow me to believe that I'll ever know everything there is to know about real estate sales. Okay. So for me to try and be boastful or, do anything like that for my buyers, I'm not real interested. What I would say this is, I look like the article is correct. And then it says new buyers have had experiences where their friends or family has purchased a home recently, and they're pretty knowledgeable, at least of the stories that they've been told. So when I come in and I tell them, here's what I'm seeing, they're predisposed to believe it. But let me just say this. If I were to go to a new buyer today and tell them, hey, the market's actually totally crap. You can buy a house for, $20,000 under asking, and I'll show you. They wouldn't believe me. Because, again, the narrative has already been written that the market is crazy. And that narrative is very powerful. And that narrative is what's driving the strong sales, even now. So here we go. Let's continue. It says, provide expert advice to your seller. It's important to front load your client with information, and you can also reiterate the specifics about appraisal gaps during the selling process. When we got an offer that is well over comps, I always mention the chances of an appraisal gap, an agent for home buyers and sellers in Denver's scorching housing market. And I like to suggest that we include an appraisal gap clause. This isn't rocket science. And of course, there is no way to force the home buyer to bring more money, but I think it's better to address at the start of the contract, not 3 weeks in when the financing is due. Well, 100%. And in my time recently, I would say in the past year, I have been in a situation where I am working much more closely with a buyer's mortgage or buyer's lender and with the buyer themselves, to the point of wanting to know how much is in their bank account at all times, so that if we have to offer above asking and we don't think it's going to appraise, we know that we can still do the offer if we need to. This behavior would have been unheard of 2 years ago. I would never know what a buyer had in their accounts. I wouldn't want to know. we have like obligations to our clients, financial obligations, you know, but I never really got into it. Like I always let them work with their own lender, and then if the lender told me things, that's fine. If the buyer told me things, that's fine. But I would never want to know from month to month how much money was in an account that we can use just in the case that a property doesn't appraise. It says how to prep your buyers for a housing appraisal gap. What do you say to your buyers, especially those buyers who have lost 7 bidding wars on houses over the past 9 months? Well, that's weird. Only 7? The current market is fast moving and can be disappointing for many buyers, especially when they're super anxious to buy a house. Start by letting them know the realities of their options. Say your client wants to put in a really competitive offer, maybe 150% over list price, for example, in order to secure the contract. Start by explaining, yes, we could submit an offer that is 50% over list price, and I understand your desire to do that. I'm pretty confident we would be the highest, but here's the problem. At this point, explain your concerns about an appraisal gap and how that would affect their financing. As an agent, I would do everything to ensure they understand their options. It's important to relay to a buyer that they can put in an offer over asking, but an appraisal gap is possible, which could affect their financing. If it doesn't affect their financing, then they need to be sure they're willing to pay over the appraised value. I like to make sure my buyer fully understands this and is willing and able to pay if needed. As an agent, I like to tell the buyer that we can bid whatever he, she, or they want. However, I'm sincere and I let them know that if they bid really high, they'll be expected to bring cash to close if the home doesn't appraise. I think that it would be professional malpractice to not teach someone what you could be in for if a house doesn't appraise. Now, this is a very interesting situation. So I myself get into this situation where now it used to be, so you have, what do you think we should offer? I don't know. I think we should offer X. And I say, okay, well, that's cool. There was never the question of, well, is that number going to appraise? So now I'm in a position of showing comps to a buyer. And then when I look at the comps, then I have to kind of make a determination of what is an appraiser going to use as their comps to justify this price. And oftentimes they're not going to find anything to justify this price. So now I'm going to have to say, let's do simple numbers. Let's say there's an asking price of $250, okay, and a sale price of $300, okay, and let's say there's some houses in the neighborhood that have sold for $265, $270-ish. Well, if I've got an offer accepted at $300, okay, is it reasonable to believe that the appraiser is going to find that $275,000 successful offer? I think so. I coughed into my hand. I'm sorry. I had to do it. That's not so difficult. But when you get a situation where a house is, say, $250 asking price, $300,000 sold price, or offer accepted price, and there's no comps in even at the 250 range, I mean, what do you do? That's tough. You almost in that situation have to, like, let's say your buyer really needs to be in a mortgage situation. They don't have a lot of cash on hand. You almost have to tell your buyer, look, I know you want to buy this house, but given your financial situation and what I see the thing comping out for, or what I see the house actually, you do not want to be in this situation because you will be house poor. I think that's what they say. But anyway, it would just be a bad situation. So I've had to counsel people in this market to not put in offers on certain houses where I can't get a good comp. You may not agree with that. You may say, John, you should just do your job and tell people to buy houses. I just think of my job as a little differently than you do. And you do your business and I'll do mine, I guess. And so responsibility as an agent. We must fully inform our clients. Additionally, I think it's fair to the entire process if we explain these issues up front, because there's already so much pressure on the market. And I think we should keep the silly sausages, as my mom would say, out of the equation. I don't know why your mom is saying silly sausages. It seems a little odd, but whatever. Final thoughts. What's going to happen next? Will house prices keep going up, or will more and more deals fall through due to financing and appraisal gaps? Or will the banks put enormous pressure on appraisers? Will rising interest rates push prices back down? Feel free to add your 2 cents in the comments below so we're more fully informed. Nobody wrote anything. So that tells you how important this article was to everyone. I would say this. I think that if banks want to lock down appraisers a little more, they will. I don't think they're against doing that. I felt like that's what happened in 2007. I felt like they went after the appraisers pretty hard. I've always felt like, for instance, for refinancing, I've always felt that the number has always been higher for a refinance than an initial purchase for an appraisal. I don't know why. I've always just felt that way. I have no numbers to prove it. But there's this stuff called appraisal gap coverage here in St. Louis. I don't even know what that is. I suspect it means something like, we will, like, say, let's go back to $250,000 asking price, $300,000 sale price, and let's say that the appraisal comes in at $275,000. Well, maybe you write some kind of clause in the contract that says up to $275,000, we will happily, continue with this purchase. Over $275,000, if it appraises for, between $275,000 and $300,000, we're out, which doesn't make any sense to me. For appraisal gap coverage, because you would think that you'd want the whole thing. So I didn't say it. I don't think I said it right. Let's put it that way. Something like, we will guarantee. So the problem is you don't know how high the house would go. So the appraisal gap coverage is weird, because let's say it sells for $275,000 and you said that you will cover everything up to $275,000. It appraises at $250,000. Okay. Then you're golden. Then that makes sense. But if it goes to $300,000 and you're up to $275,000, you didn't get the offer anyway. You didn't get an offer accepted anyway, so it doesn't matter. That's the way I would look at it. I could be totally wrong. Make fun of me in the comment section if you'd like. I'm good with that. So that's that article. I'm going to leave it at that today. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to go here, and I'm going to leave it. What did we learn today? Well, we learned that there's two people stuck. They're actually stuck in a tank of chocolate, which is bad. But at the same time, we learned that an STD in a car given to someone the insurance company could be responsible for that, for the auto insurance. I thought that was fascinating. We've learned a little bit about an appraisal gap and how that works. I hope to not be in a market like that for the rest of my life, because it's terrible. I hate it, but that's what the market is we're in right now. And then that's about it. We talked about how to join a cult. I don't know. So if I had subscribers, that'd be great. If I had super chats right now, I can't have super chats until I have 1,000 subscribers. But if I had that, this is what I'd read, the super chats. I'd make sure to get them in right here at the end. So if you're watching this like a year from now and you've made it this far into my program, into my live stream, hey, would you consider subscribing? I mean, it'd be really nice to have, like, I don't know, 1,000 subscribers, 2,000 subscribers. I don't care. I would just like to have more subscribers than I have right now, which is 13. But that's one more than I had before. So I'll take it. Each one of you is special to me. So with that, tomorrow I do plan on live streaming around 9. And I just hope that you can join me. And I wanted to say thank you for watching. And thank you for, giving me a chance. And I hope you can come around more. So I'm headed out. If you have any questions, put them in the comment section below. And I will try to answer them. I might make a podcast about it, or I might make part of the live stream. Just depends on the situation. But boy, it went fast. An hour's just gone like that. Thank you again. Goodbye.